I never thought the person hired to fix my head would be the one to break my heart, or maybe heal it. I'm still figuring that part out. 6 months ago, I walked into Dr. Elena Winter's office at rock bottom. 29 years old, barely holding together a career in graphic design, fresh off a breakup that had left me questioning every choice I'd ever made. My ex had said I was emotionally unavailable, which felt ironic given that I was drowning in emotions I couldn't name, let alone process. The office was on the third floor of a converted brownstone in Brooklyn, the kind of building that had probably been a single-family home a century ago before being carved up into professional spaces. Warm lighting that came from actual lamps instead of overhead fluorescents. Plants that actually looked healthy, a fiddle leaf fig in the corner, succulents on the windowsill, a trailing pothos that cascaded down from a shelf, a leather couch that didn't make that embarrassing squeaking sound when you shifted your weight. Everything designed to make you forget you were paying someone $200 an hour to listen to you complain. There was a bookshelf crammed with titles. I recognized Bessel van der Kolk, Brené Brown, Irvin Yalom, and some I didn't. A small table with a white noise machine. A clock positioned where she could see it but I couldn't, so I wouldn't spend the whole session watching the minutes tick down. Dr. Winters Elena, though it took me 3 sessions to use her first name even after she insisted, was not what I expected. I'd pictured someone older, more clinical, maybe wearing a tweed blazer and sitting in a chair that looked like a throne. Instead, I got a woman who was probably 45, maybe 46, the kind of beautiful that comes with experience, with having lived actual life instead of just existing through it. Silver threading through dark hair she wore in a loose bun that always looked intentional, never messy. Reading glasses, actual reading glasses, the kind you get at a pharmacy. Not designer frames that she'd push up when making a point. Hazel eyes that shifted between green and gold depending on the light. Eyes that saw too much, that made you feel transparent in a way that was terrifying and oddly comforting. She dressed like someone who understood that clothes were armor but chose to wear comfortable armor, soft sweaters, well-cut trousers, understated jewelry, a thin silver bracelet that caught the light when she took notes, a simple ring on her right hand that I later learned had been her grandmother's. "Tell me why you're here, Nathan," she'd said in that first session. "Because my life feels like a first draft I forgot to revise," I'd answered, trying for humor to deflect the fact that I was terrified. "Because I'm 29 and I don't know who I am or what I want or why I can't seem to connect with anyone in a way that feels real." She'd written something in her notebook. "That's a good start. Very honest. Let's unpack that." That was 6 months ago. 24 sessions. If you're counting, I was counting. Each session was 50 minutes, though they always felt both longer and shorter than that. Longer because therapy is uncomfortable, because sitting with your own thoughts and having someone gently dismantle your defense mechanisms is exhausting. Shorter because 50 minutes is never enough time to say everything you need to say, to process everything you need to process. Now, sitting in her office for what I didn't know would be our last regular session, everything felt different. The air between us had changed from clinical distance to something charged, something neither of us was acknowledging but both of us felt. It had started small moments when our eyes would hold a beat too long, when her professional mask would slip and I'd catch something underneath, a smile that felt personal rather than therapeutic. The way she'd lean forward when I talked about something I was passionate about, like she wanted to absorb it. The way I'd started looking forward to Tuesdays at 4 p.m., the way people look forward to first dates. "You've made remarkable progress," Elena said, but her voice had that careful quality it got when she was choosing words deliberately. "The anxiety attacks have decreased. You're setting boundaries with your family. You're even considering that new job opportunity in Seattle. Thanks to you," I said. She looked at me over those reading glasses, and for a moment something flickered in her expression. Something vulnerable. Then it was gone, replaced by professional composure. "Nathan, I need to talk to you about something." The sound of the clock ticking suddenly seemed distinct, loud, like a metronome counting down to something inevitable. My palms were sweating against the leather armrest. The scent of her jasmine tea she always had a cup during sessions. Earl Grey with bergamot turned sharp in my nose, almost bitter. My throat felt tight, like I'd swallowed something that wouldn't go down. Those words, in that tone, never led anywhere good. "I've been consulting with my supervisor," Elena began, and I watched her hands, usually so steady, fidget with her pen. "About ethical boundaries. About when a therapeutic relationship might need to end because the dynamics have shifted in ways that make continuing inadvisable." I must have looked confused, because she closed her notebook and set it aside. That was new. She never set aside the notebook mid-session. "I'm going to be direct because you deserve that, and because anything else would be a disservice to the work we've done together." She took a breath. "I've developed feelings for you that extend beyond the professional, feelings that compromise my ability to maintain appropriate clinical boundaries." The room seemed to tilt slightly. I heard the words, but they didn't make sense in the order she'd said them. "You? What?" "I have feelings for you, Nathan." She said it again, slower, like she needed to hear it as much as I did. "Romantic feelings. And before you say anything, I want you to understand this is entirely my issue to manage, not yours. This is my failure of professional boundaries, not anything you've done wrong." "When did this?" I started, but she held up a hand. "It doesn't matter when. What matters is that I can no longer ethically continue as your therapist. I've already arranged for you to transfer to a colleague, Dr. Marcus Chen. He's excellent, and he has openings starting next week." I sat there, trying to process words that didn't make sense, even though I understood each one individually. 6 months of progress. 6 months of showing up every Tuesday at 4 p.m. and doing the hard work of untangling the mess in my head. 6 months of finally feeling like someone understood me, saw me, helped me make sense of the chaos. 6 months of learning to sit with uncomfortable emotions instead of running from them. 6 months of identifying patterns, setting boundaries, building the kind of life I actually wanted instead of the one I thought I should want. And now it was ending because it felt surreal, like we were in some alternate version of the therapeutic relationship where the rules had been rewritten without anyone telling me. "Can I ask you something?" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "These feelings, are they real? Or is this just transference? Isn't that a thing? Where patients or therapists get confused about..." "I've been a therapist for 18 years. Elena's voice was gentle but firm. "I know the difference between transference and genuine feeling. Trust me, I've spent the last 2 months questioning this, consulting with my supervisor, examining every interaction we've had. And the conclusion is undeniable. What I feel is real, which is exactly why I can't continue treating you." "What do I feel?" I asked. The question surprised both of us. Elena smiled, sad and knowing. "That's something you'll need to explore with Dr. Chen. But Nathan, whatever you're feeling right now, confusion, anger, betrayal, those are all valid. This is a disruption to your therapeutic process, and that's on me." "I don't feel betrayed," I said quietly. I don't know what I feel." That was a lie. I knew exactly what I felt. I'd known for weeks, maybe months, the way my heart rate picked up when I walked into her office, the way I found myself telling her things I'd never told anyone, the way her laugh, rare, earned, felt like winning some private prize, the way I thought about her between sessions, wondering what she did when she wasn't being Dr. Elena Winters, professional life fixer. "I think you do know," she said softly. "But acknowledging it here, now, would be inappropriate. So I'm going to ask you not to. Not today." We sat in charged silence. The clock on her wall ticked. Outside, Brooklyn hummed with afternoon traffic. "So this is it?" I finally asked. "After today, I just transfer to some new therapist and pretend the last 6 months didn't happen?" "Not pretend. But yes, you'll continue your work with Dr. Chen. He'll have access to my notes. Your progress won't be lost." She paused. "And Nathan, what you do after that, after you're no longer my patient, that's your choice. But right now, while you're still under my care, I have an ethical obligation to maintain boundaries. How long? I asked. How long until I'm not your patient? Elena studied me for a long moment. Professionally, the recommended waiting period after termination of the therapeutic relationship before any personal involvement is 1 year. Some say 2. That's a long time. Yes, she agreed. It is. The session ended with logistics. Contact information for Dr. Chen. Instructions for transferring records. Professional, clinical, nothing to indicate that 5 minutes ago she'd upended everything I thought I understood about our relationship. I stood to leave. And Elena stood too. We'd shaken hands exactly once. At that first session. Now we stood 3 feet apart, and the distance felt both infinite and not nearly enough. Nathan, she said as I reached the door, for what it's worth, you're going to be fine. Better than fine. You're already becoming the person you were always capable of being. Don't let this derail that progress. I turned back. She looked tired in a way I'd never seen. Like this had cost her something significant. Can I ask one more question? She nodded. If there wasn't an ethical issue, if we'd met some other way. Would you? I stopped, not sure how to finish. That's not a fair question, she said gently. Because we didn't meet some other way. We met in a specific context with specific roles. Who we might have been to each other in some alternate universe doesn't matter. But would you? I pressed. Elena looked at me for a long moment. Yes, she finally said. If circumstances were different, if the power dynamic didn't exist, if you weren't vulnerable and seeking help, yes, I would want to know you. The real you, not the patient version. I would want to have coffee and talk about something other than your anxiety. I would want to hear about your day without analyzing it for underlying patterns. I would want. She stopped herself. But circumstances aren't different, so it doesn't matter what I would want. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and left. Dr. Marcus Chen was fine. More than fine, objectively. Professional, competent, came highly recommended, had published papers on trauma and resilience that I'd actually found helpful when I Googled him. He was younger than Elena, maybe late 30s with a different style. More direct, less likely to let silences stretch. His office was in Midtown, all clean lines and modern furniture. A Herman Miller chair that probably cost more than my rent. It felt like the office of someone who'd read all the right design blogs about what a therapist's office should look like. He was also not Elena. And that was the problem I couldn't articulate without sounding like I was proving every stereotype about male patients falling for female therapists. In our first session, I decided to just put it all on the table. Rip the Band-Aid off. My previous therapist terminated our relationship because she developed feelings for me, I said, watching his face for judgment. And I think I'm pretty sure I have feelings for her too, but I don't know if they're real or just some complicated transference thing that I'm too deep inside to see clearly. Marcus nodded, unsurprised. Elena briefed me. Let's talk about what you're experiencing. We talked. For weeks, we talked. Every Tuesday at 4 p.m. I'd kept the same time slot, some superstitious part of me not wanting to lose that ritual. I'd sit in Marcus's office and we'd dissect what I felt, about attraction versus genuine connection, about power dynamics and therapeutic relationships and why they mattered even when both people were adults who could theoretically consent, about whether what I felt for Elena was real or just gratitude mixed with vulnerability, the way soldiers sometimes fall for the medics who save them. Confusing rescue with romance. Here's the thing, Marcus said in our fourth session, leaning back in that expensive chair. Feelings that develop in therapy can be very real. The safety of that space, the intimacy of the work, the fact that you're sharing things with your therapist that you might not share with anyone else, that you're being seen and accepted in ways you might never have experienced before. It creates perfect conditions for genuine connection, for love, even. If we're being honest, but he held up a hand before I could interrupt. But you were in a vulnerable state. She was in a position of authority. Even if what you both felt was completely authentic, acting on it while you were her patient would have been harmful. Not just ethically problematic, actually harmful to your healing process. And now? I asked. Now that I'm not her patient? Ethically, she should wait. A year minimum. Give you time and space to continue your therapeutic work without the complication of a developing relationship. Give both of you distance from the original power dynamic. A year is a long time. Marcus smiled slightly. Yes. But if what you feel is real, if what she feels is real, it'll still be there in a year. And you'll both be in a better position to explore it healthily. I knew he was right. I also knew that a year felt impossible. I didn't reach out to Elena. I wasn't supposed to, and I respected that boundary. But I thought about her constantly, wondered what she was doing, whether she thought about me, whether this waiting period was as difficult for her as it was for me. 3 months into therapy with Marcus, I ran into her at a coffee shop in Park Slope. It was a Sunday afternoon, one of those rare warm days in February where everyone in Brooklyn decides to go outside simultaneously. I'd walked to the coffee shop because I was restless, because sitting in my apartment thinking about Elena was starting to feel pathological, because Marcus had suggested I needed to build a life that wasn't centered around waiting for someone. She was sitting by the window with a book, physical book, not a Kindle. Which shouldn't have felt significant, but somehow did. Hair down instead of up, falling past her shoulders in a way I'd never seen. Wearing jeans, actual jeans, faded and comfortable looking, and a cream-colored sweater that looked soft enough to touch. She looked younger, more relaxed, and seeing her outside the context of her office did something strange to my chest. Made everything simultaneously more real and more impossible. I must have hesitated too long because she looked up and saw me. Recognition flickered across her face, followed by something I couldn't name. She gestured to the empty chair across from her. An invitation. I sat. "Hi," I said. Brilliant opening. "Hi," she smiled. And it was different from her therapist's smile. More genuine, less measured. Good. Therapy with Marcus is good. Different, but good. I'm glad. She marked her page and closed the book. I've thought about you. Wondered how you were doing. Thought about you too, I admitted. A lot. Which Marcus says is normal, but it doesn't feel normal. No, she agreed softly. It doesn't. We sat in the kind of silence that had been comfortable in her office but felt charged here, in neutral territory. She wasn't Dr. Winters here. I wasn't her patient. We were just two people who knew too much about each other, who felt too much, who were bound by rules that felt increasingly arbitrary. This is hard, I finally said. Are we supposed to pretend we don't feel anything? For a year? Elena looked at me, and I saw the same conflict I felt reflected in her eyes. I don't know. The ethical guidelines are clear about the waiting period, but they don't account for. She gestured vaguely between us. This, whatever this is, can we at least be honest about it? I asked. That we're not imagining it? That what we feel is real? She was quiet for a long moment. Then, yes. We can be honest. What I feel for you is real, Nathan. It's why I had to end our therapeutic relationship, because what I felt stopped being professional months before I admitted it. Same, I said. I mean, I didn't realize it until you said something. But looking back, yeah, it's been there for a while. So what do? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. According to Marcus, we wait. We give it time. We make sure what we feel isn't just a product of the therapeutic context. And according to you, I looked at her, really looked at her. Not as Dr. Winters, the therapist who'd helped me rebuild myself, but as Elena, the woman who read books in coffee shops and wore her hair down and looked at me like I was something precious and terrifying. According to me, I said, I want to know you, the real you. I want to hear about your day without it being part of some therapeutic process. I want to take you to dinner and talk about nothing important. I want to make you laugh without wondering if it's part of my treatment plan. Elena smiled, and it was sad and hopeful at the same time. I want that too. All of it. But Nathan, we have to be smart about this. You're still processing a lot. I'm still your former therapist. If we rush this, we could ruin it before it even starts. So, we wait. We wait, she confirmed. But maybe we don't have to wait in complete silence. Maybe we can be friends who are honest about the fact that we're waiting for something more. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't what I wanted. Okay, I said. Friends who are waiting? Friends who are waiting? She echoed. Over the next 6 months, Elena and I built something that existed in the space between friendship and romance. We met for coffee every few weeks. Never at her office. Never anywhere that could be mistaken for a therapy session. The first real meeting happened on a rainy Thursday in April. The cafe in Carroll Gardens smelled like wet pavement and dark roast. Rain drummed against the windows. Elena arrived 10 minutes late, soaked despite her umbrella. Hair dripping, coat dark across the shoulders. She looked nothing like Dr. Winters. Sorry, she said. The Q train had an existential crisis. I passed her a napkin. Our fingers touched electric and we both pulled back. We talked for 2 hours. About growing up, about her divorce, about the Seattle job I'd turned down. She told me her marriage had been good until it wasn't. Had taught her to be alone first. Art is how we make sense of being human, she said when I mentioned painting again. Don't apologize for that. Reaching for sugar, our hands collided. Her fingers were cool. I could feel her pulse. Nathan, she said softly, a warning. I know, we're just friends. Are we? Then there was the phone call at 11:47 p.m. Her voice sounded smaller, less composed. I needed to hear your voice, she said. I was reading McCullers something about loneliness, about finding someone who speaks your language. And I thought of you. I think about you too. All the time. We talked for 43 minutes. About books, loneliness, the strange space we occupied. Her voice in my ear felt more intimate than touch. I closed my eyes and just listened to her breathing. I should let you sleep. I don't want to hang up. Neither of us hung up for another 30 seconds. Just breathing through miles of cable. 7 months in, we both got invited to the same wedding. I saw her across the reception in a midnight dress, hair up, laughing with someone. Jealousy hit me physical and sharp. We gravitated toward each other anyway. Dance with me, I said. Elena hesitated. Nathan, just a dance. She took my hand. Etta James played. Elena fit against me like she'd always belonged there. My hand on her waist, her hand on my shoulder. This is a bad idea, she murmured. We're just waiting while dancing. She laughed, sad. You made 6 months of therapy feel like foreplay. Turnabouts, fair play. Did you just... too much? No. Accurate. The song ended. We didn't move apart. People were watching. Elena stepped back, rebuilding distance. I should go. If I stay, I'm going to do something we'll both regret. Or not regret. That's the problem. I found her in the parking lot, leaning against her car, breathing hard. Don't look at me like that, she said. Don't make this harder. How am I looking at you? Like you want to kiss me. I do. I've wanted to for 9 months. We can't. But she didn't move away. We stood inches apart, not touching but feeling the pull. 3 more months, Elena said, voice shaking. We've come this far. If we rush this, we'll ruin it. She touched my face once, fingertips against my jaw, then got in her car and drove away. The year mark came on a Tuesday. I woke up knowing that today, technically, ethically, the waiting period was over. Today, if we wanted, we could stop pretending this was just friendship. I texted Elena. Coffee today? She replied within minutes. Yes, but maybe something stronger than coffee? We met at a wine bar in Fort Greene. She was already there when I arrived, wearing a dark green dress I'd never seen, hair loose around her shoulders. Hi, I said, sliding into the booth across from her. Hi, she smiled, nervous in a way I'd never seen her. So, it's been a year. It has. How do you feel? I laughed. Are you asking as a therapist or as someone who cares about you? She finished. Not as your therapist. I'm never going to be your therapist again. I feel good, I said honestly. Scared, but good. I've spent a year working on myself, a year becoming someone I actually like. And the whole time, I've known you were there, waiting. It kept me honest, made me do the work instead of just going through the motions. Elena reached across the table and took my hand. It was the first time we deliberately touched, the first time it wasn't accidental or could be explained away as friendly. I'm scared too, she admitted. I've never done this before. Fallen for a patient, I mean, former patient. In 18 years of practice, it's never happened. And now that it has, I'm terrified of messing it up, of hurting you, of having made the wrong call. You didn't make the wrong call, I said, squeezing her hand. Ending our therapeutic relationship when you did? That was the right thing. Waiting? That was the right thing. Being honest? That was the right thing. You've done everything right. Then why am I so scared? Because it matters, I said. Because we both know what's at stake. Because this isn't just some casual thing we can walk away from if it doesn't work. Elena looked at me, and in her eyes I saw everything I felt reflected back. Fear and hope and desire and uncertainty all tangled together. I want this, she said quietly. I want you. We have to keep checking in to make sure we're both okay, that the power dynamic isn't still influencing us. I know, I said, and I want that too. The slow, careful, let's not screw this up version. She smiled. So, what does that look like? Where do we start? I thought about it. How about dinner? A real date. Somewhere nice, where we're not pretending it's just coffee between friends. I'd like that. And then we see what happens. We take it one step at a time. We're honest when things feel weird or complicated. We don't rush. Yes, she said. All of that. We sat there, hands linked across the table, and for the first time in a year, the waiting was over. We took it slow. Painfully, deliberately slow. First dates that ended with chaste kisses. Conversations where we stopped and asked each other, does this feel healthy? Are we doing this right? Moments of doubt where one of us would pull back and the other would respect it. It wasn't perfect. There were times when the history of our relationship complicated things. Times when Elena would say something insightful, and I'd have to remind both of us that she wasn't my therapist anymore. Times when I'd fall back into old patterns, and she'd have to resist the urge to therapize me. But we learned. We adjusted. We built something new on the foundation of what we'd had before. 6 months into officially dating, we were at her apartment. She was cooking while I sat at the counter watching. What? She asked, catching me staring. Nothing. Just happy. Me too. Is that weird? The best weird. Later, on her couch, she was reading. Head on my shoulder. I was sketching. Can I see? She asked. I showed her a portrait of her, done from memory. It's beautiful. You're beautiful. She looked up. A year and a half ago, when you walked into my office, I never imagined we'd end up here. Did you feel it then? No. You were a patient who needed help. But somewhere along the way, you became more. That's when I knew I had to end it. Because I couldn't be objective. Best decision you ever made. Yeah? Yeah. You saw me at my worst and still wanted this. She kissed me. I love you, Nathan. Is that allowed? I laughed. You're allowed. I love you too. Do you ever regret it? The waiting? The complications? Elena considered. No. If we'd rushed it, there would always be that question. But we did it right. We waited. And now I know for sure. This is real. We're real, I echoed. And we were. Imperfect, complicated, built on a questionable foundation, but real. And that was enough. The end.